I'm Rob Downey, a family practice MD and Institute for Functional Medicine certified practitioner. I'm coming to you from Seaworthy Functional Medicine in Homer, Alaska. Seaworthy exists to help people overcome their health challenges and be fully vital. What's the state of play on the ground now with depression and what is being called treatment-resistant depression, which we'll learn today is thankfully a paradoxical concept, which is not what's happening, and how can we learn for ourselves or others how to transform and transcend depression. Today, we are so fortunate to be joined by the two thought leaders in a novel new project for resolving depression. Silvia Covelli, who has expertise in many areas and is now working with a functional medicine psychiatrist, Dr. Achina Stein, who I've been privileged to speak with a number of times prior to today. And they're going to illuminate for us what is happening in this important area and share some really good news about a new program and state-of-the-art principles that can move folks forward. Both of you, thanks so much for being on the Field Notes podcast today.
Thanks for having us.
I think the key here is probably to make sure and follow the journalistic principle of not burying the lead. So you all will have a cohort next year in the Healing Depression Project, which will be a 45-day program, 30 days of which will be in what state's it going to be in, Sylvia?
It's in Austin. It's
Austin.
Really beautiful ranch outside of Austin, 30-day retreat.
So here's the recipe ingredients we have for this neat recipe we're going to make together today. We've got Sylvia, who has expertise in these multiple domains. She has recovered from severe depression, so she'll be sharing aspects of her journey. She'll be doing something that's really important and a really important trend in functional medicine, which is that many people, their superpowers are similar to a superhero, and that their genesis story includes something that they've recovered from or transcended or transformed, and then they deeply care about it and often are highly motivated to move on and make sure that others can get similar benefits. Dr. Achina Stein, a leader in functional medicine psychiatry for many, many years, not to mention a brilliant, humane, deeply caring person whose programs and ideas have helped many of the podcast attendees, the Rewiring Your Brain Masterclass participants. So quite the duo here. I imagine the synergy is probably off the chart for what you all have to bring to help folks. So Sylvia, since you're the director of the project, should we start with you about just what folks should know, and then we'll illuminate different dimensions as we go. But I think if we just proceed organically, this will be great for folks.
Okay. So this program is created out of my own story. I spent 25 years trying to recover from depression. And throughout that time, I try, from the most conventional and pharmacological approaches to more, spiritual approaches as well, and anything in the middle. And the thing is that during that time, and I think that's how a lot of people feel that have depression, I felt that I was doing something wrong, that it was my fault. I was not recovering, and that, I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to do in order to recover. So that's one thing. But I felt that I was the one that was failing at doing things, and that maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. And there's so many misconceptions around depression, and there's so many reasons behind now that, after I went through so many years and so many things that I study, that I saw, these are the reasons, the real reasons why I was not being able to recover. And now I see it over and over in people. So, just, I mean, one of the things is like this disconnection between the physical health and the mental health. So it's like, two separate entities, and hopefully they don't meet at any point according to the conventional model of psychiatry. And that's like, that's one of the things that we're really approaching in our program. This program is just kind of the answer of the things that are not being currently offered by the conventional model of psychiatry. So it has the functional medicine piece, which is really changing the questions that we're asking, because I think currently psychiatry is asking, how can I reduce, X or Y symptom? How can I, so it's, and how kind of like a medication like do that for a symptom. But I think a better question here is like, wait, let's ask, where is this symptom coming from? It's like, it's not completely unrelated that you're feeling, for example, if one of the symptoms is like extreme fatigue, it's not just, out of the blue, and it's not everything in your mind. So how about if we start like asking the question, like, what if depression was in your body or also in your body? And that's the approach that we're taking, and that's the approach that I never had, regardless of how much I asked doctors to like, look, run some more tests. There's something that is, that is wrong. Like, I felt it in my body. It was just, I felt like really unbalanced, and physically speaking. And then, that's really like, in at least the psychiatrists that I spoke to, they barely do that. They do, some general like panel, but it's so general that it doesn't really go through all the possibilities of what could be really happening with you. So we are answering to that, doing a program in a, like in a residential setting that really looks deep into all the possible root causes of depression, and really like not only like unveil them, but also like address them. So there's like, the lab testing, the assessment, and the medical plan to heal them. So that's something that I really wish I had. That's one of the components. The program has like, many more components that I can address later. But I think that's one of them that is the significance, like importance.
Thank you. Thank you. I think state of the art is definitely the right phrase for this. And from my prior conversations with Dr. Achina, we've gotten a chance to recognize how depression robs people of their potential. And I don't know if that was your experience, Sylvia, but it just makes it so precious. People get their potential back. And I even know folks who would choose a physical disability over a mental one, in that having the brain and central nervous system impacted feels like uh, it just makes it so hard for people to be using the operating system that is not working optimally to try to make headway. Uh, so, Dr.
It really
Achina,
makes, oh, I'm sorry.
no, please
I was
proceed.
gonna
Yeah.
say that I couldn't agree more. Like, I used to like wish like if I had anything else at that point, I, didn't matter like how serious the other thing was. I just wanted not to have depression.
So, Dr. China, you're coming into this with all of this experience, and I'm going to presume that that's really helpful to do something as ambitious as this, to have been doing functional medicine psychiatry for some time. What was the impetus or the momentum for you to configure the program this way and have it located where it's located and have a certain number of days? Is it because people need to get away from other dimensions of their life? Or their safety implications for people being in one of these settings first, so you can address, the safety issues that arrive for some folks? How did that play out for you coming to this point?
Well, the reason it's in Austin is because Sylvia is in Austin right now. Hopefully we'll have it in Massachusetts someday. So
Uh-huh.
we alternate from East Coast to West Coast, or North and South.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, it's a retreat style. So, when it comes to safety, I think there needs to be people coming into the program that are already safe. The
Mhm.
thing about safety is that it just transcends into an acute problem as opposed to a chronic problem. So functional medicine um, is something that is different. It's, you know, looking for functional medicine. It's addressing chronic issues. So these people who would be doing the program are already safe, and in terms of, because that's an acute issue. So we're treating chronic treatment resistant depression, and although we dislike that term, it's used often enough that people understand what that means, that they've been dealing with depression for quite some time, and that it's been resistant to multiple rounds of medications and psychotherapy. What they're not looking at is that other forms of therapy outside of ECT and TMS, you know, they're not, most psychiatrists are not trained in food as medicine, as looking at movement, looking at the all the physical things that could be happening below the neck that affects everything above the neck. The software and the hardware, as I like to say, you know, it's not just the mind, it's also the brain. You need your brain in order for the emotions, you know, the emotional centers of are in the brain. You know, it's not this, you know, place, you know, outside of that tissue. So if something's not going well in the brain, then it's going to affect your emotions. So, you know, we are using science, you know, evidence-based, science-based methods that are cutting edge, like the ketogenic diet. There's so much evidence that shows that the ketogenic diet is important, and not everyone's going to be able to do that, but we'll try to approach that as one pillar that we'll be addressing. And then there is looking at the autonomic nervous system and how having limbic activation and brain retraining and you know, it's the vagus nerve that can be what's the word I'm looking for? You know, you want to do vagal nerve stimulation. So these are things that are not addressed in the conventional world, and some people may not even know what that is. You know, if they're new to functional medicine, like, what is she talking about? I've never heard those terms. So I think it's important for people to know that there's so many solutions out there that are not utilized when it comes to the treatment of depression. And so it's a misnomer when they say that they have treatment resistant depression, that the only treatment that they're looking at is medications, basically. And so there's so much research that shows that physical movement, exercise, is equal to that of an antidepressant, an SSRI antidepressant. And it's even better if it's combined with psychotherapy. So when you take all of the different methods, right, and stack them on top of one or the other, then you find that your depression is getting better. And that was the case for Sylvia. And, you know, she actually, you know, went to multiple programs, I think over 60 programs in her lifetime, and found that, you know, some of these programs really helped her up to a point, or they would help her, and then, but the depression would come back. And it was it was her making her job essentially to get her depression in remission, that she finally stacked all the things that and did them every single day, that finally caused remission of depression. And but it took time away from her job. So that's why it's really important to be able to go to a place where you can really focus on this, because it's a learning curve. And then you need people around you who have the same mission as you. There's going to be a group of people that are working together towards the same mission, and that group effect can be very, very healing. The energy of the group is really, really important. So there's so many aspects of this that you'll find in an inpatient unit or, rehab kind of facility, but the goal is to get well. It's not to eliminate sickness. And so there's a different
Mhm.
mindset altogether. But there's so many levels of this that are not offered anywhere else. This is the only program that uses all of these modalities in one place with
Mhm.
people who know what they're doing.
Mm.
And I see this work improve patients who have had treatment-resistant depression on an individual one-on-one basis. So to have it done as a group it will be amazing. It will be
Mm.
absolutely amazing in person. So, and I've run small groups, some small group programs online, but this will be in person daily for 4 weeks, followed by 2 weeks of reintegrating back into your life through daily contacts online. And we prepare for people to get back into back into their lives, whereas other programs, they end and it's like, and then you're on your own. You might have a call from a social worker, or you might just see your therapist or your psychiatrist within the coming weeks. But we actually prepare and figure out what are the barriers, what are the things that might happen when you get home that could prevent you from continuing all the habits that you've learned. What do you need in place in order for you to continue to be successful in keeping the gains and continuing the gains that you have already had? Right. So I think it's important to look at all of those aspects all in one package. It's not available anywhere else.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm thinking about phrases I would use if I were talking to someone in my clinic about going to your program. And two that occurred to me would be conventional treatment-resistant depression and functional medicine responsive depression.
Yeah.
In
Right.
that somebody I really, and I know it's more than just functional medicine, it's also metabolic psychiatry, et cetera. But as a
Right.
functional medicine person, I think of that as kind of an umbrella term for root cause approaches. I had a person I trust share something with me I'd never heard before, which is that their observation was that the energy that's created at visits with me is that the person can be healed and whole. And I think it's one of the biggest compliments I ever heard. And I think any of us who are passionate about opening, creating a liminal space for somebody to step through into a place of light when they felt like they're in a place of darkness. That's probably why a lot of us do this. But that's what I would be framing for them, is this sounds like an absolutely remarkable setting that is, it's what can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that programs like this, because they're, it's just bound to be so helpful. What they do is they grow and they start to change the narrative, because then there's no more poignant issue than somebody losing their potential or someone they love losing their potential. So this is bound to make a huge difference. It's just how much, how soon. That had to be part of what was driving you all as you put this together. I mean, I'm sure the heavy lift you all did to get here, looking under the hood, there's probably so many moving parts to get to this point of having a cohesive program that's ready for its first participants in spring of 2025, huh?
It is.
Absolutely. Yep.
And
So many
also,
things need to be in place. Yeah.
Yeah.
and also like the concept behind the way I see it and the way like it was for me in my life is stop and heal. Because one of the reasons why depression becomes chronic, why you have it like where you're dealing with it for years and years and years, is because you never make it a priority. It's always something on the side that you wish it will go away, and that you go to, maybe you go to like 1 hour of therapy a week, maybe you go to like one yoga class a week, and then you take your like medicines daily. But that is not enough, because depression, if you look at it, it's a condition that permeates every dimension of your being. It's not only in your body, it's also in your mind, in your emotions, and even in your spirit, and how connected you feel to life and to your purpose, to everything. It's everywhere. And the more time it passes, the more it becomes, I don't know, maybe like ingrained in you. And so when you've been dealing with a condition for so long and you have not been, just as I was, not successful to really get it out of your system, out of your life, then the thing to do is to choose you as a priority and to just basically that your job becomes to heal yourself, that your only focus is to heal yourself, to be really into, and then if, of course, this is, in my case, I did it on my own because this program was not available. And it's actually, I'm putting it together way after I recovered, just in the hope that it can like help people like me, like we're desperately looking for something like this. So in my case, I did it on my own, but I had to stop everything else in my life and just to fully concentrate on it, because there's so many things that you have to change. This dream that has been sold to us, that there's a magic pill, that there's or a magic, like, one-time treatment that or procedure that will just make your symptoms go away. For depression, which is what I can be a testimonial for depression, in my opinion, that does not exist. Unfortunately, when depression has become, has been with you for years, the only way out is through effort, dedication, and work. And then, of course, those things are very difficult, especially if you're depressed, because the things that you need the most, depression is taken away from you. Things like, motivation, hope, physical energy. You need vitality. If they're telling you, yeah, go for walks, like there's this huge list of things that you're supposed to be doing, but you need you need the things in order to get there. So it's just to stop your life and really concentrate on it. And that's why this the retreat idea, because on your daily life, you're always, especially if you're a woman, somebody else is going to be a priority. You're going to be taking care of somebody else, or your job is going to take over. And then like, yeah, I know I have to do that. I know I should eat better. I know, but then you don't really do it. And one of the reasons is because in the middle of the chaos of your daily life, it is very difficult. So here, like, you go away, you make this a priority. And then on top of that, you have all the support and the expert guidance on how to implement these habits, how to form them. Number one, there's a whole science behind this, that is the science of habits formation, that is real like tricks and tips on like how to get rid of habits that you definitely need to, stop, and how to implement new habits into your life, and then especially how to keep them. Because in my case, one of the things that I saw is that integration is essential. Without integration, healing for depression will always be, far away. So what that means is that having the information of what's good, that's not good enough, because I had so much information about depression. You could ask me anything and I will tell you what to do, how to do it, which research study talks about it, everything. But then, when I had to take like an honest look at my life, and this is what we're going to invite people to do, and actually to the audience right now, is to all those things that that are good, are you doing them on a daily basis, every day? Because you actually need to become that. It's not just somebody that eats healthy, like, on the weekends, or it's just, you need to become a person that eats healthy, period. So, and it's, and same with any habit. So it's just the importance of just knowing that for depression, there's work, there's a way out, there's an exit, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And this is the great news, because conventional psychiatry has been saying, and it still says, that, when you have had depression for a long time, it's going to be like a lifelong condition. It's not, it's going to be, it's going to be with you. And they actually prescribe medication, and they don't tell you this is going to be for X amount of months. It's just for as long as we go. And then, and in my case, when I tried to stop it, I didn't even get support for that. So like, things are gonna get worse. You should really stay on it. And I tried a few times, and I know you should really stay on it. Finally, I did it myself. I documented myself on how to do it. There's a way on how to do that safely. And I had to do it on my own because my psychiatrist kept, reinforcing this concept of you do need this medication. And so there's all these things like playing together, and that a program like this will really address those issues on like why what you're trying right now is not working, and how you can really make a program like the way I did for myself that can really get you out of that condition regardless of how long you've been dealing with it.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I have a feeling somebody from Homer or the Kenai Peninsula is going to end up in your program, if not a number of individuals. As I'm sitting here thinking of these days that I get to do this podcast, this is when I get to be with my tribe because I'm in a remote part of the world. And a couple of things occurred to me, starting with another thing that I think is good news. The people I take care of who have resistant depression, they are at the point they would do anything. And so I think that's really good to have that much pent up energy for change, in that there's this, in chemistry, it'd be this reaction step. They have to get over the reaction energy to the other side of the equation. In rocket science, they'd have to have enough, thrust to get out of orbit. And the analogy I was really flashing on while we were talking on is, when you put a rocket in space, when you put somebody in space, stories that the astronauts tell is there's nothing to describe the feeling of looking at the Earth from orbit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing this beautiful place we live can't be described. And once it's been witnessed, then it can't be described how different it is the rest of one's life. And this is what I see with people who've recovered from depression with functional medicine, from multiple sclerosis with functional medicine, from early dementia or pre-dementia with functional medicine, is the spell is broken, that they're fated to be stuck with this neurological psychiatric issue. And so what I wanted to underscore is what happens at your program. What I would say to my patients about why to take the time is you need to get your potential back. You need to be definitive. You need to have agency. The notes and the music need to have room to breathe. You need to bring this together. You need to be able to embody it. You need to be able to feel it. And it's also going to do something really important, which is it's going to bring part of your self-esteem back. Because maybe the thing that makes me the sickest is that depression robs people of their self-esteem, which is a manifestation of the depression. It's cognitive distortion. And so the agency to say, I'm going to do this for myself and reclaim my potential, I think is a super important self-agency step. And it's particularly salient to honoring women and women's sacredness and their cornerstone and anchoring and fundamental place in our society.
Right. Part of that is also confidence. I mean, part of self-esteem is gaining confidence, standing up for yourself, standing up for what you believe in. And it is an unlearning of quite a few things. It's unlearning that this is a lifelong illness, that you'll have to live with this for the rest of your life. It's an unlearning that medications are the only thing that you can take to resolve your depression. And if you don't have, if they don't work, then there's no other choices. It's an unlearning of all of these things that honestly contribute to your depression, because you basically lose hope and you think you're going to be living at this place for the rest of your life. And so it is creating agency, feeling empowered, having the confidence, all of which contributes to your self-esteem.
I don't want to misspeak, by the way. This is a program for both genders, I presume. Both.
Yes.
I just, the ratio of women to men in functional medicine is about 7-1. But men, perk your ears up here. There's something
Yes.
brilliant for you to transform your suffering as well. So I don't want to mischaracterize that.
Yeah, 30%
So
30% of people who have major depression have treatment resistant depression.
mm,
And
mm.
so, that who are suffering from depression and have been suffering for a long, long time.
Mhm.
And probably still trying really hard to find some option. So, I feel like this is an option that when you address all of the possible root causes and really address a major root cause, if people are interested in learning about, like you mentioned it, metabolic psychiatry, that there is a metabolic theory of depression, that the chemical imbalance theory has been disproven decades ago, but since people still talk about it, that that it is serotonin and dopamine, and that's the problem. Well, there's all these other issues that resulted downstream, an aberration in serotonin, dopamine, and
Mhm.
norepinephrine. There's things that are happening upstream that can start having you to create increasing that manufacturing of your neurotransmitters systemically. And I think it's really important for people to know that there are multiple lifestyle changes that can improve your depression, as well as addressing the metabolic issues that ultimately affect your brain.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Sylvia, do you want to share a couple of the aha moments to give our participants today, who I thank for joining us, some granular detail about what it feels like? Is this like a veil coming off? Is this like the lights coming on? Is this like a flower unfolding in the spring? Is this like being a plant in the garden, finally getting water? What's it feel like to get past the inflection point?
What a great question.
Yeah.
The thing with when you've been having depression for a long time is that in the process you lose yourself, and that who you really are or who you used to be is so distant that when the depression symptoms go away and you started just waking up without having that rush of emotions and without having that anxiety and being physically fit and energetic to do your life, and you start getting engaged again, it takes a while to almost get to know this new person, which, I mean, it's not new, it's who you used to be, but there's been like a long time between one and the other, that for me, there was like this process of like, okay, who I am without the depression, and then just getting to know her again and love her again, because when you have been dealing with a condition for a long time, you identify with that. You've been labeled by that, by everybody, that, and especially like authority figures. So now that you don't have that label anymore, so that was my initial process, was just like, okay, so this is who I really am. And just so that was a beautiful process, because of course, like, who you are with depression is just someone that you don't want to be, even like even in your in some things that you're not like very proud of, your how short tempered you are, or you become irritable. There's a lot of things like that you're like, oh, now I don't do that, and now like I enjoy hanging out around of people. And so just it's just incredibly nice. It's a different way of living life, because you're ready for it. Before, like with depression, it felt that every day was a very difficult task, a chore, and where there was like no excitement, no joy, no fulfillment, but it was just, I have to do this and this and this. And I was really good at getting things done. I had this like, highly functional depression, I guess, where I managed to build like large businesses and run like, like go quite intense things during that moment, but that never meant I felt good. I was always in the background, just hoping for that moment where I would just go back home and close the door. And just, this is, just like, so just, it's really amazing to see that now. Like in my case, one of the first things that I noticed is that I was hanging out, like with my family or people for a long time, and they were actually like surprised, that because normally it would be like, hi, hello, 5 minutes, like go back to my room or go away for a while, come back, but just, and then all of a sudden I was there for, for the whole night, and they're like, okay. So that was, and then just, it's so beautiful because you get, instead of like this, like day-to-day, like chore that life used to be for me, is just like, like, okay, you have all the energy and you have the willingness and the desire to engage with life and to live it. And you really, so it's just, it's a complete different experience. And of course, one thing is like being without the depression, and another thing is like things that you have, that every human has to do, which, building a meaningful life, for example. So because sometimes like I've get asked like, oh, because like you don't have the depression, then your life is all like full of joy and rainbows, and they're two different things. So, but definitely not having depression gave me the opportunity to do this other like really fulfilled life that I was really dreaming of, but I didn't have the energy, or, as we were talking before, I love that word, the hope, because I'm like, well, everybody's telling me that I'm going to have this forever. So let me just get enough strength to be able to do life with this thing on the side. It's like, a really heavy suitcase that I have to carry out throughout like this super long airport. Like God knows when is it gonna, end this ride. So, and now it's just like, they take that away and now you're free because you can walk anywhere. And because before, like walking up the mountain, for example, just as an analogy, with that heavy suitcase, you wouldn't even consider that. You'd be like, give me the shortest route and, and the easiest thing, because I'm already, look at this thing that I have, it's like, but now when you don't have that and that's taken away from you and you're like, oh, so what do you mean I can go up that mountain? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So, well, you have to get other things in your life, like, hiking boots, for example, in the same analogy. But then that's a different thing, because now you don't have that was preventing you from going after that life. So that's what it was for me.
So awesome. So awesome. Should people, is there going to be 4 weeks is a long time. In some ways it's a short period of time. Is there testing that coincides with any of this, or is that too fast a turnaround time for people to hope for any testing to be done while they're there? What would people anticipate about, and maybe superimposed on that question is, how would it feel to arrive there, and what would the experience, how would people anticipate this experience if they or a loved one is going to take action to follow through?
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll be definitely doing a full functional medicine comprehensive testing for sure. And that will probably be done prior to arriving to the retreat, so that we can start, running, just from the get-go, right when they arrive, we'll do an evaluation and look at all the testing and make recommendations. And then they're going to be learning how to move their bodies. They're going to be learning how to eat and, cook. And there's going to be a lot of things that they'll be learning. But so the testing will absolutely be done in advance. But I'll let Sylvia answer the rest of your question.
Thing like I did a lot of like residential programs and quite a number of retreats. And this is what this experience like intends to do for people, is that from the moment that they arrive, that they can, it's just creating like this safety, so they feel like they are in good hands, that they are in a safe environment, and that even the healing begins like from that moment, from the time that they cross that door, and just just feel like the peace and feel like the expertise around them. And a group, it's a small group, it's very private, it's 15 people, So it's enough to feel all that support, but also like, I mean, large enough to get that support, but it's small enough for you to get that personalized attention and not to get lost in, you know, in a number. And so I think like what you're gonna feel is like at the just as soon as you get there is just, you know, the piece of, okay, I'm finally gonna be able to attack this thing, to really look at it. And these people are gonna be offering me like super powerful tools and the, you know, latest things out there in psychiatry. And, you know, I'm gonna use them. And there's people, you know, like Sylvia and many others. I'm one example that have overcome this. So, and we're gonna feel the person with also not the physical energy, with everything that is going to be going in the medical piece, but also with motivation and really digging into this big why. Like, why now? Why doing this is so important? And why, and the things, for example, with depression, there's so many things that you lose with depression. So I actually think that dedicating like 45 days to this, it's actually less time than what depression normally makes you lose in your day-to-day life. The days that you cannot show up for work, or the opportunities that you've been missing. And you know, I mean, and then what about other things that are even like, you know, more difficult to talk about, like, you know, relationships, friendships, like things that you lost, that, let me tell you, from a very personal level, you are not able to recover. So, and then you just have to make peace with that, forgive. You know, the first person that you need to forgive is yourself. And then, you know, just of course, like, you know, continue. So I think it's a small price in the sense of like the amount of days to like really be there to, you know, to get yourself well. So we're going to work a lot on like, why now? Why the, you know, as I was saying, like the big why. And what would happen like if you continue to have depression? Because, you know, maybe like someone that is going, for example, just going to give an example, someone that is going, that person has been dealing with depression for 6 years. But what happens if those 6 years become 25, like in my case? So it's just like, okay, this is, you know, to make it like really, really important of like, I need to work on this, and this is my priority, and this is what I'm going to be doing. And changing, what we are going to inspire people is to really change the shoulds to must. It's like, yeah, I should be eating better. I should be like moving more. I should be changing all that to no, you should not. You must, because your life depends on that. Like your whole future, your health, your everything, and like who you are, and everything, and everybody that is around you. So there's going to be like a lot of like, you know, like great, like, you know, psychology and motivational inside this. And we're also going to have like something else, like, you know, that people are going to feel while being there is a lot of release in the sense of like trauma. We have like very intense work of like trauma, but especially trauma, like resolving, like really working through it. We're going to be using like experiential, like therapy, specifically psychodrama. So it's not only because sometimes like talk therapy, the reason why talk therapy is not enough by itself, sometimes it's just because it's looking at like, okay, I gain a lot of new understanding. I know where this is coming from. But then what do you do with that? So with this type of therapy, it's not only you gain the wisdom of knowing what's happening, but also that you get the chance to elaborate that trauma and, you know, just, you know, work with that. Of course, it's a process. It's not something that is just going to happen in like 10 days, the whole thing. But it would be like a great beginning of like, you know, releasing a lot of it to motivate you to continue with the rest. And together with that, we're going to be doing a lot of somatic therapy. And I think that's so important. I experienced it in my own life. I had these breakthrough moments where I felt how the trauma was leaving my body. I just, depending on what I was doing, like, one clear example that I have is in a yin yoga class that you're really like, just like, with like hip openers and like, and there was this moment where I felt like, that this thing that I was working on and that I have been working on, like, it just, and then this rush of like emotions of like, oh my God, it is out. So that's, that's one of the things, but we're going to be doing a lot of like other like somatic therapy to help to move that trauma, like hopefully like as out as possible. So I think those are like just things that people are going to experience, and there's always an amount of fear to things that are unknown. So at that point, it's just trusting that, that you're there for a reason and that you've been, chosen, and that everything will go right. And it does. I did a lot of programs that by the end, I was very glad I stayed. I did it fully. So that's what we're going to be giving, the experience that we're going to be giving to people.
I was thinking while you were sharing about this interaction I had with this person, and this person's personality type or archetype is that they show up for others. And so many people we respect or admire, or really precious parts of our lives, how they're built is they'll show up for others. They'd lay down on the train tracks for somebody, they'd sacrifice, and they do, etc. And this person's depletion way out of proportion to their repletion, and it seemed to be driving a lot what was going on. And so the person said, I'll do anything to get better. And I said, will you compassionately show up for yourself and give yourself some time to replete? This person said, well, that's going to be a hard one.
Yeah. Anything but that.
Almost anything to get better. And to put it into that concrete language, I think I also think then about my wife's getting training from Tara Brach and Jack Kornfield in compassion and mindfulness and that sort of thing. And one of the recent things that her cohort has been doing over this 2 years is she greets herself in the mirror and says, I love you.
Right.
And I had a person come back from a Thich Nhat Hanh retreat in Deer Park in California who was advised that every love song you hear on the radio, think of it as a love song for yourself. And I think some of what I'd like folks to reflect on, or hopefully my invitation or my positive challenge for folks, is if you're willing to do anything to get better, or the person you love, you do anything to help them, ask the question whether loving compassion and showing up for the self is on the table. Do y'all think that's part of the courage?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yes. And we get under the hood about that. So we look for all of the barriers, the subconscious and unconscious barriers, and bring that right to the table as, this is looking at your history. This is what keeps showing up again and again and again. And sometimes it is not putting yourself first. So it's not for everybody. Everybody is different, so we would be figuring out what are the barriers for each individual. That's emotional. Sometimes people are aware on a cognitive level, some things that are really being emotionally driven, they might be aware, but they're not actually working with the emotions necessarily and understanding them at a level where you can actually change that. And that's going to be really, really important.
And also, it's actually a way for them to think about it is that showing up for yourself and giving yourself like this time to recover from this or like another condition is an act of kindness towards others. So you're actually helping others, because for depression, it's not easy to be around someone with depression, and anyone in your family could testify to that. So you're going to be, like a better mom, a better wife, a better friend, a better, at everything. you know. So that's maybe for those people that cannot put themselves first, maybe they just then do it for someone else, because you know, I mean, at the end you're gonna get the help anyways. So but maybe that can be a motivation for a lot of people, you know. You cannot choose yourself, choose others, because you're gonna, by helping you, you're helping others. Like, you know, growing up with a mom that is depressed is not, you know, it's that's not ideal, and we all know that.
Rising tide lifts all boats.
Absolutely.
That state-of-the-art trauma clearance and transformation is going to be definitive and critical, just from the experience of what I see here, and really makes so much sense. I'd be hearing that from both of you. Anything y'all wanted to share that you didn't get a chance to?
Well, I just want to invite people to reach out, and I mean, first to share this episode with anyone that that you know that is struggling with depression. And we all, I mean, according to the statistics, we all have friends and family members that are dealing with depression. So just share this with them, because this is bringing new hope to the way depression has been treated. So that one, and two, reach out. Then we just at this point you can just book call with us. You can do it on the website. It's healingdepressionproject.com, and there you're gonna find the button to book a call. There's no cost, and we just, at this point, we just want to hear, you know, about your journey, and then we can discuss if we are, you know, a good program for you, if you're also like a good fit for the program. So just reach out, make that first step. That's usually like a very difficult one to make, but just, you know, do that, talk to us. You're gonna get directly one of the two of us in that call. So let's just talk about it. And the other thing is, don't worry about, like, you know, like the time away, as we were talking about. There's other things that are more important. And regarding the investment, we do have amazing scholarships available for the year 2025. So for the program, we have a program in March and a program in August. And for those programs, we have very generous scholarships that will make like this, you know, affordable to a lot of people. So let's just that's the call, like reach out and, you know, and contact us. And finally, we also have a guide that is going to get you help started, like if you just want to like get more tips like now on how to do it, and if you want to start like doing things on your own. It's based on my own experience and the, you know, 60 plus treatments and 25 years of dealing with the condition and overcoming it. And it's called Why Am I Still Depressed? And the top 4 mistakes you're making. So it's a guide on like how to start your recovery journey. And that can be downloaded on our website or directly at healingdepressionproject.com/gift. So there you can just download it for free and get your journey started and get the hope back. There's a lot of hope. I didn't have much, and I was the first to be surprised that this worked. But there is, every day I'm meeting people that have overcome the condition like the one I had, or much worse. And so that's a very important, and that would be like the main thing that I would like people with depression at this point to gain from this interview, that there's hope, and that you should, like, you know, keep trying for, like, you know, new treatments. And if what you're doing is not working, don't be afraid to change it. There's other ways.
Right on. Well, Dr. Achina was a hero to me before, and now you're both my heroes. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for all the light you're bringing. And
Thank you.
same
Thank you
information
for
will be in the
spreading
show
our
notes.
message. Thank you
Of
for
course.
spreading our message.
Of
Absolutely.
course.
Rob, thank you so much.
Yeah,
It's
the
been a
information will be in the
pleasure.
show notes as well. And
Okay.
Thank you.
have an awesome day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for joining us for the Seaworthy podcast. Seaworthy exists to help people overcome their health challenges and be fully vital. If you think we've earned it, please consider giving this podcast a like, subscribing, and giving us a 5-star rating on the platform of your choice. Thanks.